Hi guys, welcome back to Herky the Cavalier's channel. We made it to California and today's video is going to be some tips and tricks on how to travel with 2 dogs and a baby. If you're new to our channel, welcome. My name is Mai. This is Herky. This is Milton. I have a 1-year-old baby now. His name is Oasis, and we travel back and forth between Montreal and California. So in here, I'm going to mention some tips for traveling with a 1-year-old and also some tips for traveling with dogs. So hopefully this video is helpful for you and you pick up some things that will make your life easier. Because honestly, after flying with 2 dogs and a baby with just 2 adults, I can safely say that if you are going to travel with a 1-year-old or if you're going to travel with 1 dog, it's going to be very easy compared to what we just did. Overall, it went super well, so I'm very happy with the experience. We did fly with Air Canada. So here is the first tip that I have to give you is to book your flight in advance and only book flights that are direct. It'll be much easier for you, for the baby, and for the dogs. This is why our flight from Montreal to LAX was early in the morning. I think we left Montreal at 8 a.m. so we had to be at the airport by 5:30. So it was kind of early and kind of hectic for the baby, but that was the only flight that was available to us that was non-stop, and I really wanted to get a non-stop flight. When you do have a layover, you risk delays, you risk luggage getting lost, you risk a lot more factors, so direct flight is a must. I know that it can be a bit difficult for the baby's schedule when you have really early flights or really late flights. The really early flights, usually you have to wake the baby up from their sleep, and the late night flights, you risk flying at their bedtime, which can shift their entire schedule. The way we did it was that we woke him up at 5 a.m. We got to the airport, and by 7 o'clock or so, he fell back asleep for a nap, which was kind of a continuation of his overnight sleep. He slept from about 7 o'clock to about 8 o'clock when we took off, and then he took another nap in the plane. So for the majority of the flight, he was awake. For a 1-year-old, that's the thing that's different than flying with a 6-month-old. They sleep a lot less, so you're gonna have to find a lot of entertainment. For the baby, the 2 tips that I would give you for the flight is to first, to bring a lot of snacks, and second, to bring some sort of floor mat that they can play on. We brought a lot of snacks, but we also bought food on the plane to keep it entertained with food, to keep him hydrated, and to keep him full. Because I don't know about you guys, but for me also, I love to be full on a flight. It just makes the whole experience less painful overall, and it's very important to stay hydrated, because if we get dehydrated, the baby will be dehydrated as well. I'm very lucky that Herky and Milton were in carriers under the seat in front, so Oasis could play with the girls. I did put a floor mat that is from Gather on the floor, so he wouldn't be sitting directly on the floor. Another tip is to bring some disinfectant wipes. Then before Oasis would play anywhere, I would just wipe the entire section down just for peace of mind and to make the entire process as clean as possible. Another tip for the baby is to bring a baby carrier and or a stroller. We brought both. Andy and I both had our baby carriers just because you don't know when you're traveling how the baby will react. That day he just was very clingy, so he ended up being on me most of the time. I also had a stroller. We used the Baby Zen yo-yo stroller. It's a really light and compact travel stroller. It fits on the overhead bin of the plane, but you can also check it in at the gate if you want, or you can check it in at check-in in the front. We used it all throughout the airport, just like to put my own backpack because I was wearing Oasis, and then once we got to the plane, I checked it in at the front of the gate. They usually give you the big plastic bags at check-in, so make sure you ask for that bag. If you don't plan on using your stroller during the stretch at the airport, you can also check it in at the gate. That's what we did with the car seat and the car seat base. So there's a lot of things for you to bring. It also depends if you are bringing a car seat, if you are bringing a stroller, or if you are renting everything at your destination, but we decided to bring our own, so we checked in the car seat and the car seat base at check-in. Another thing about traveling with Herky and Milton is that they used to travel as emotional support animals, and since ESAs are no longer a thing on flights, Herky and Milton are now flying as pet in cabin. They have been doing so since 2020. They do super well. They used to walk in the airport, sit on our laps, and it used to make the whole flight experience much easier for me. I don't like flying. I get really anxious. I'm a very anxious person to begin with in general. Having them on my lap was much easier, but now that I have traveled with them as pet in cabin, I do see that them in a carrier is also very practical. The only ick is that it gets kind of heavy, especially since we have the baby now. But before that, if it was just me and Andy with each one dog, it's very doable. We use the Sherpa Carrier in the size large. I'm going to link everything in the description box below for you guys to check out. But Herky weighs 18 pounds, Milton weighs 13 pounds. They both use the same carrier. It's the best carrier because it has a wire frame. It squishes down. It's very light. It's affordable too. It's available on Amazon for about like $40 or so. So I really like that carrier. Another tip to make your travel easier with dogs is to schedule your flight in advance as much as possible. Call the airline to let them know you're traveling with pet in cabin and pay the pet fee in advance. That way you put chances on your side at check-in to not waste time, to do it as swiftly as possible, and it just makes the whole process much easier and quicker at the airport. If you can, also try to do the check-in in advance. I know we don't usually have luck with that. We're able to book the flight and then call and pay the pet fee, but for some reason, because of the pets, we're never able to check in advance. They always say like, see the check-in agent. I think it's because of the dogs, but if you're able to check in advance, try to do so that you can just print your luggage tag and then drop off the bags when you get to the airport. Another tip for you is to pack as light as possible. I know this is really not easy, especially if you're traveling with dogs and a baby. We are lucky that we have a house in California, so we can travel really light. We just had one luggage between Andy and I, so as soon as we got to the check-in counter, that was the most hectic part. We had 2 baby carriers, our 2 backpacks, the stroller, the car seat, and the luggage, but you just have to stroll all that to the check-in counter, and then you can check in the car seat and the car seat base and the suitcase. And if you want, you can also check in the stroller if you're not going to use it, and then you're as free as you can be. Because once you get through security, guys, that is the most hectic part. I'm telling you, you want to be as light as possible because the dogs have to get out of the carrier. Anything they wear on them has to be taken off. So make sure they're not wearing any clothes, no harness, no anything, because you have to take them physically out of your carrier, carry them through the metal detector, and so you want that to be as light as possible. So we each had a backpack. You have to take the laptops out of the bag. You have to take the dogs out of their carriers. You also have to take the harness off of them. If the baby is in a baby carrier or in a stroller, you have to take the baby out of that. You have to take off your shoes, take off your belt. So make that as smoothly as possible. That is the most nerve-wracking part. I'm telling you guys, try to avoid wearing pants with belts because that's just an added step. You have to take off your shoes, you have to take off your laptop, you have to take out the dogs, you have to take out the baby. So it's a lot, okay? I don't know how I could have done this without Andy. I don't think I can do 2 dogs and a baby without Andy. I think what you can do alone maximum would be 1 dog and 1 baby. Already that is very hectic, and I'm telling you, people are just very stressed out at security. So make sure you take your time and you're just ready to do the best that you can, as smooth as you can. Try to be as calm as possible. When you do bring dogs through the metal detector, they will swab your hands and they will swab you for any like substances, so be ready for that. It was kind of hectic because I was going through with the baby and Andy had both the dogs coming through, and then when he passed the metal detector, they have to swab his hands, but then you have to put 1 dog down. And so if your dog is at flight risk, just remember that that is a possible step. My tip for you would be avoid to wear pants with a belt and don't wear anything on the dogs. And some tips for the dogs on the flight: I would bring a collapsible water bowl so that you can fill up your own bottle after security. I always bring a big bottle. I make sure to empty it, and then once I cross security, I fill it up, and then I can give water to the baby, to the girls, and to myself also, because there's nothing worse than being dehydrated during a process like that. You can bring milk and water for the baby. You don't have to respect the 100 mils restrictions. That's just a heads up. For the dogs, you can fill up your own bottle after security. For the dogs, you can also bring some snacks for the baby and snacks for the dogs. For the dogs, we love to bring some dehydrated treats like some liver, some chicken, or some dehydrated raw kibble. Those are great little snacks for on the flight. Make sure for the dogs that they are well exercised and that they went potty before going into their carrier for the duration of the stretch. Once they get in their carrier, they have to do the stretch at the airport, the stretch in the airplane, and the stretch after you get to destination also. We're lucky that when we land to LAX, there's always a pet relief area that they go to each time, and this time Herky pooped right away, so she held it in like a good girl. They never have a problem holding their potty. I get this question a lot, like how do they do holding their potty? And the answer is they just hold it. They're very good girls. Usually when your dog is potty trained, it's going to be no problem. Dogs can easily hold it for like 8, 10, 12 hours. They're going to do very well. Don't be stressed. And also Herky and Milton, they are very used to traveling. They just sleep in their carrier. They don't cause a ruckus. You don't even hear them. So they do very well on the flight. And if we can do it, so can you. So that will be it for our travel tips for 2 dogs and a baby. If you're traveling with a baby, I hope you gathered some tips. If you're traveling with dogs, I hope you gathered some tips as well. If you have any questions, leave them in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. We love you and we'll see you soon. Bye!